founded on the facts, my reading of reality is correct, then it is both of us need to step aside from the minus side and walk into the plus side. Maybe only then we will have the kind of rabble which you watch in world-class doubles players in badminton or tennis, for example. There are other team games. Volleyball is played with 6 players. Football is played with 11 players. So in all of those, there is a very important role and lesson. The best selling in individual places. So this is where a startup founders can draw a very important lesson. And your question is valuable, points to that direction, that issue, which makes the difference between very successful startups and pitiable failures among the startups. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sir. Now, my next question is, why does it matter to a startup? A startup is, why only it matters to startup? That it should be a rapid growth strategy. There used to be a saying earlier about that. We have heard that slow and steady wins the race, and we heard that famous story of tortoise and rabbit. But you are saying something totally different. So it is now that story is changed. That in slow and steady wins the race, and now it has become a fast and going haywire can win the race, or what it means, why it matters for the startups.
In the race between hare and the tortoise, there was room only for one winner, Mr. Goel. But in the world of business, both have the chance to win. A tortoise, by being a tortoise, wins, and those are standard new ventures. On the other hand, by design or by accident, some promoters find a business idea which is high because the problem they are solving, in the way they are solving, is what a large number of customers want it in the market. So if they can manage on one side the product story, and on the other side, the market management story, and then the combination story, boy story, girl story, dating story, then they become high potential organization, and those ones are the ones which not only become a startup, they become what we know by the glamorous word unicorns. So the story has changed only in one way. Today, we have a rich body of knowledge, an ocean of knowledge about management. Management for the tortoise business, manager for the hare business, and management for the unicorn, Arabian horse, or cheetah business. So today we have, earlier we did not have, people need to formulate it by trial and error. Today we don't have to have unnecessary trials, and we don't have to expose ourselves to definitely avoidable errors. So that is why it is vital. And that is why I am very excited today with you that today's thought leadership is reminder that management changes everything. We only don't make an effort to know its soul, and having found the soul, we do not have the resolution to implement it. If we do these two parts correctly, then there is no reason why any entrepreneur will not make a decent living from his venture and make decent living for his employees and his business partners. So your question underlines this aspect that in the 21st century, in the year 2022, there is a rich body of knowledge. Unfortunately, Mr. Goel, neither the teachers and trainers have the required qualities of an individual to acquire it, to master it, and to transfer it. I am very saddened by this fact, but we will make an effort, especially at Dr. Sharan Consulting, California, to build a platform which will be of limited application. I know my limitation. I cannot reach every entrepreneur, but I can reach those who join the incubators whom we support and provide. Each of the three will be classified, and dream big, but don't dream unreally big. Everybody has finite team available. Even with the best management, you cannot transform your basic limitations, which life has given you, parents have given you. So within the limits of those, everybody will be a successful business person in new venture domain, if they remember the question you asked and the answer we gave.
Okay. Professor Saran, you have mentioned about the management, how the management plays a very, very key role, their strategic decisions for the rapid growth of, and then the management can transform the startup in a unicorn. But are there any external forces also there which drive the rapid growth, or it is just inside the internal decisions which can go for the rapid growth?
There are external forces, let me admit, very much there. And the management, which is particularly among the founders, they have to be conscious of those external limits. If they're not capable, then they should have the modesty and the wisdom to reach out to the experts who do environmental analysis. In management, we have techniques for analyzing external environment. Even BBA students or the economics students are taught this today. So it is not lack of knowledge. It is a question of intention. So the most important external factor is regulatory environment, Mr. Goel. Regulatory environment to set the limits to the growth rate. Regulatory environments also set limits on the kind of financial resources available to you, and so on, so forth. So I agree with you that there are external forces and they must be well understood. There are techniques like PESTEL, political, economic, social, technological, ecological, and legal environment. There are standard techniques. They are applied at 3 levels. First, we analyze the local economy level forces. Then we analyze the state or country level forces. And finally, every business has multinational competition, whether they are aware of it or not. Direct competitors or indirect competitors. Just to make the matter light, yesterday I came across a poster shared on WhatsApp. A lady was wearing the safa, which men wear when they go to Bharat. And the caption said, even women are wearing safas. You know why? Because they don't want to spend 2,000 to 3,000 rupees on getting hair styled by a professional. What they want to do is, have the next best solution, wear the safa and look good. In our management language, which I admire and worship, which I have done all my life, is the distinction between competitors. All competitors are not same. Here, Safa is indirect competitor. It is an apparel, piece of apparel. Hair styling is a service. One is a good, the other is service. It is beyond imagination of a less savvy management person, a business person. How can they be competitors? But the world of business is such that God has very intricate plays and rules of play. Businessmen should better watch these realities and learn from them. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Saran. I am sure very soon one startup will start for making the safas for the ladies. So then that will be again, as you said, that is something which is going to save money. And we know the population in India is almost now 50% of the women. So the scaling is also there too much there.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor Saran. Now my next question to you is, you have mentioned about external forces. For internal, you mentioned about the management. But are there other forces, internal forces, which also have impact on the rapid growth strategy of or rapid growth of the startup?
Very much. My answer is internal forces are the most important. And here I have lessons from 3 companies from America. One of them is Ewing Kaufman. His company was Kaufman Labs. The second one is Jack Stack of a Springfield remanufacturing company. And the third one is Ralph of Johnsonville Sausage Company. These 3 answer the question, and these are dramatic examples. The founder must not go solo unless it is exceptional case. Don't keep 100% equity with you, in other words. Don't be greedy or short-sighted. The founder must find other members of the team. So very important part in answer to you is building a new venture team or missing on making a new venture team. It is the quality of management which the new venture team does, which is the internal factor for fueling rapid growth strategy. I don't want to dilute the matter, so I stop here.
Okay, thank you, Professor Saran. Because in USA, whenever the investors invest money, especially in the investors' seed money I'm talking, they want to place their own CEO or the CEO of that startup, so that they know that the founders, because there they say founders, or here we say promoters, the founders can be kept in check, and the founders generally in startups are the technical people, while the CEO is a professional person. So to check, as you mentioned rightly, the internal forces, to keep a check, they always want some professional CEO to be there. Do you agree with this, Professor Saran?
It is a very difficult question you are asking me. There are cases where professional CEOs have done wonders and failed miserably. There are cases where non-professional, intuitive founders have performed miracles and failed miserably. Therefore, the answer lies, what is it which the successful professional or non-professional CEO does, is good at, and what the failed ones miss out. Having said this, I just showed you 3 companies. In each of the 3 companies, lots of differences were there. It is common sense to expect it. But I was struck by this one, that there are loud and clear similarities. And the similarity is none of them disrespects their people. All of them literally celebrate each of their people as human beings. They have very exalted philosophy, so to speak. The respect is endless, and rest follows from there. So if these new venture CEOs, whether the venture capitalist brings it or whether it grows through the early stages of the business because of the results they deliver, the team building they do, we'll talk more of this in other aspects as we go along today. But remember, it is venture capitalist which brings very vital resources to the table. There are some promoters who decide to bootstrap their organization. They want to keep maximum equity. But if your business requires a rapid growth strategy, which is a key role of venture capitalist network, then it is a folly not to give some part of equity for bringing in the venture capitalist. The venture capitalist brings 2 very important resources. One is the funds which a business needs in every case before break-even point is reached. By definition, you need more cash than you are producing in the business, and therefore you need a source for it. It can be an angel investor, it can be family, it can be friends, it can be venture. That is a separate specialization by itself. But the second most important thing is they are the ones which bring those elements, those networks, those experiences, those partners who make the product market fit happen at speed, and thereby speed up the rate of growth. This is important for 2 reasons. First important reason is time is of essence in business. We have heard it. So what can be done must be done today. Venture capitalist is the one with wider objective view, whereas the founders and internal people have limited and subjective view. So he is friend, philosopher, guide. That is the first benefit, shows timeliness of decision making. The second thing which they bring is respectability, credibility. A good venture partner will be transferring their respectability to your product, and customers will be less skeptical and more willing to accept it. These 2 contributions are there. While we are at this topic, Mr. Goel, let me also mention, I heard a very sad news yesterday. Somebody published an article, are Indian startups sham businesses? It is a tragic part which gives bad name to the noble startup individuals. There are some people who create phony, elusive, unethical impressions and they bring bad name. That is where due diligence is very important for the founder to select the right venture capitalist, because there is a whole ecosystem of sham founders, sham fund providers, and sham everybody else. We have to be very careful to avoid.
Okay, thank you, Professor Saran. I just received one question, rather a statement, and I would like your comment from Professor Dr. Puneet Dublish. He has said it that all startups, barring few, are in red because of business model with not visible revenue and with low margins. Like right now, you mentioned about the sham business of startups. Do you think the without any proper business model, the founders or the promoters are coming up with the startups and there's no visible revenue, as Professor Dublish has asked, with a low margin? Your comments on this?
What Professor Dublish is mentioning is a very interesting phenomenon. In 1960s, a man called Theodore Levitt published an article, Mr. Goel, in Harvard Business Review, and it's one of the most respected journals even today. He called a concept marketing myopia. And the kind of organizations which are in debt, the startups which are always short, most of them are victims of marketing myopia. Just as suppose you wanted to start the Safa business for women. You see, you have not done any market research. You haven't gone to any women of different ages, different economic backgrounds, ask them what price points appeal to them, for what quality of the Safa, and you just believe that all that you know. At your age, you know a lot about the world. You think that is adequate enough for your business model. That is the fatal mistake which Mr. Dublish is pointing out. So thank him for bringing this issue. We will like to say the management is a noble profession. It relies on information, timely information, relevant information, objective information, dependable information. And I do not have all of it for rapid growth strategy formulation. Second point I want to mention to Dublish sir is that there is a lady who went to aggregate airport services. She started the business in 2013. She had 370 crore annual revenue. She does not have a single rupee of borrowing from venture capitalists, nor equity contribution from new startup funding organizations. She decided to be bootstrapped from the beginning, and these are the genuine heroes of the startup space, Mr. Goel. So those examples are there.
Okay.
We want more of them to be here.
Yes, thank you, Professor Saran. Now, my next question is the competency to manage rapid growth of a startup easy and common or difficult and rare?
Sadly, it is the latter, Mr. Goel. And I do not know why we have let this to become the norm. Lack of the competency has become the norm. At Dr. Sharan Consulting, California, we addressed this problem by bringing down the complexity of management so that the competency can be transferred to even a 22-year-old engineer, a 24-year biotechnologist, or a 30-year professor who want to start something in edtech space. Most importantly, as I said, management is so misrepresented today. The teachers know only half of it, or maybe less than that. And the half which they know is not the objective truth about management, but subjective myth of management. And we have been doing it. Some people do it by honest error. Some people because they are committing to keep mankind groping and searching for knowledge. There are heroes and there are opposites. I'm pointing to that. What I want to mention here is this competency today is pitiably uncommon, rare. There was a time, you know, that people with no money, with no education, with no family worthy name have set up organizations, grown them, they have become multinational today. You know what I'm mentioning. Today, it has come round. Earlier in that era, 17th century, 18th century, 19th century era, if 10 people started ventures, 9 of them succeeded. Only one poor fellow failed because of the external factors, not because the person lacked management competency. Today, the failures which I analyze, I find lack of ethics is a most important one. And if a man is very arrogant, you can be very sure he neither respects himself or herself or the people he deals with. Arrogance is a sure sign that it will lead to blindness, the kind which marketing myopia refers to. That person will not respect objective information needed for rapid growth strategy formulation. So here, it is a pitiable situation. We are trying to set it right. I'm sure more people will join us and they will set it right. The basics which I said are so common sense. For example, in this sheet you see Ralph Steyer, he changed from his father's traditional management style completely. And look at the results which he has produced. When he took over from his father, the annual revenue was just $5 million. In 5 years' time, he raised it to 15 million. So if we build a system, particularly incubator, that's my limited understanding, which has this one. And my formulation is very simple, without any prejudice or arrogance. I have come up with an acronym which I plan to write and put in open domain. I don't want to make an intellectual property and charge royalty for this one, in other words. And that is, take the word manage and make it an acronym. M.A.N.A.G.E, manage. And I expanded this acronym so that it is easy to remember. M-A-N, man. So M is man apprehends nature. First part. A-G-E, and acts to govern existence. Highest level of management is called governance. Someday we will have a thought leadership on governance and its contribution to success of business and individuals. So this is the antidote to lack of competency, Mr. Goel. People lack competency because they have lost objectivity required. And this definition says man apprehends nature, first part. That is, grasp the reality, external forces, and then acts to govern existence, then make the decisions. By following this formula, the rapid growth strategy will be anchored the way Ralph Steer anchored it. That boy came back and changed it. He says, the one quotation is, he went to the managers and says, you will own your decisions. You don't have to take permission. Now, from a control-oriented father's management system, he made it entrepreneurial, and the world has all the result to see it. Johnsonville is a name. Remember, I have to give you a concrete example of Ralph Steer's management style, because what I said was abstract. Everybody among our viewers may not grasp it. You see, when a customer complains, where do all the companies send it? They send it to customer care department, which is part of the marketing department. And what does the marketing department do? Answer them, okay, we are sorry, we'll change a replacement, this and that. What did Ralph Steer do? Ralph Steer picked up the complaint and sent it to the front line in manufacturing. They read the complaint. They understood what was wrong in the manufacturing stage, and they set it right. And the set of complaints were addressed. So this management dramatic change, Mr. Goel, is today very rare, which is what your question was. Is this competency common? No, sir, it is not. Ralph Steers are sadly a rare exceptions, not the rule. We must try to make it reversed.
Okay, thank you, Professor Saran. I'm sure today our viewers are getting I will not use word lecture, but I will say the knowledge which Professor Saran is imparting, and it's something which all the young entrepreneurs or all those founders or managers who wants to be successful in their startup business, because as Professor Dubli says, maximum number of startups are not doing well because of the causes which Professor Saran has already explained and which he's going to explain. I'm sure today's program is very much enlightenment. Now, my next question to you is there any connection between rate of growth and valuation of a startup? Because nowadays, every startup, even the venture capitalist or even the other people always see the valuation. And then only we make it that, okay, this is startup. Now today the valuation is so much. Is that earlier, in the earlier time, the conventional business method, we used to say the profitability of a business. We used to see the what is the profit of this particular business, how much dividend they are giving. But now it is valuation which matters. So can you just tell, is there any connection between rate of growth and valuation of a startup?
Beautiful question. I'm so happy you asked it. One word answer is yes, there is a connection between rate of growth and valuation of the new venture. To make the point very easily understood, let me have a hypothetical story, share a hypothetical story, Mr. And that is, suppose I am a king, but I don't have any children to sit on the throne after me. So I decide, let me give away all the land which I have to the people in my kingdom. So I make an announcement. I say that on such a date, at sunrise, you start covering the ground on whatever means, and the extent of land you cover will be registered in your name. Now, if on the defined date, a particular person goes walking and covering the ground, or the person is like Milkha Singh, he decides to run and cover the ground, or there is somebody who is having a very good horse and rides the horse and covers the ground. In the three cases, you see, the amount of land covered at the end of the day will be dramatically different. Okay. Same is about rate of growth. Pedestrian or a accomplished runner or person with a very fast horse. Valuation is the amount of land each of them got. And that is the potential of the total market which my business is positioned to cater to on year basis. This is the connection between rate of growth and valuation. And you see, it comes from a conscious rapid growth strategy. The rate of growth which we achieve is not accidental, it is never. There may be ups and downs. Here I want to show you a diagram so that the story is clear. This is a very unusual graph. The first one is called wonder. The second one is blunder. The third one, wonder, blunder,
Thunder.
then plunder and asunder. For want of better words, the author have used it, but the whole graph is not common. I had to literally do Samudra Manthan of literature on entrepreneurship to find this graph, Mr. Goel. So, if the first two phases are negotiated successfully by the rapid growth strategy, only then the other doors open. So valuation jumps in this third and fourth phase. And in the fifth one, as I said, in case of Ralph Steyer, he, instead of letting it go down, made a dramatic change. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
He
please go
made
ahead.
a dramatic change in the management and raised the organizational capacity to not only formulate rapid growth strategy, but implement it successfully. When the two sides of the coin are connected correctly, miracles happen. Unicorn valuations follow.
Okay.
Yes, there is a connection.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Saran. Now, my next question is, what is the role of founding team in rapid growth strategy formulation, sorry.
The role is very complementary. We need a person who controls the management information system, Mr. Goel. We need a person who understands the consumer behavior. We need a person who understands competitive pressures from expected and unexpected corners. So we need each of these three people or more than three people team. I mentioned three because research has shown that 3-person founder teams perform much better in rapid growth management than a smaller or larger teams do. It may be a coincidence, but to me, it has a logic. You are expert of business. I am expert of market. Now we need a third person to create collaboration between us. Because I may want to dominate the decision. You may want to dominate the decision. We need an arbitrator, so to speak, whom we both respect and trust. So that's why the 3% teams are very vital and have outperformed all other founding teams in rapid growth strategy formulation.
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
I
Okay.
completed.
Okay, thank you, Professor Sanan. Now, my next question to you is, what difference can good rapid growth strategy make to a startup?
It can make the kind of difference which Ralph Estaire made to Johnsonville Sausage Company. Why will it happen? Because no customer is completely happy with the current solution. It is human nature. You are not happy with the best of your car. You are not happy with the best real estate which you purchase. You are not happy with the best suit which you have. You are not happy with the best club you go to, and so on and so forth. In every walk of life, there is a sense of wanting something else. It's basic human psychology. So the good teams grasp on this, bring people, do good management. So best of the best keeps on coming out and explosive growth happens in the organization. This is what your question is underscoring. It's vitally important.
Okay, thank you, Professor Saran. Next question is, why do founders take rapid growth for granted? What price do they have for such an attitude? What price they do pay for such an attitude?
I think the culture today is responsible for such a phenomenon that the startup founders take rapid growth for granted. In our education, our mind has got divorced from reality. Let's face it. I know a lot of theory of management. But if you take me to a pawn shop and say, how can this fellow double his turnover? I will tell him, use this model. I will tell him, use this technique. I'll tell him, use this approach. The poor fellow follows my advice, and halfway down he finds there is a gap in how to follow the rest of the advice. With due respect, all the jokes you hear about management consultants, they're taking your watch and telling you the time. That is the story. Now, if this is the expert side of the story, practitioner side of the story is no different. A sales manager goes to a shop and says, if you store my product, lots of customers will come. They will not buy only my product, they'll buy many other products. That person stores it. He has a very good merchandiser. So he displays it attractively. No contribution of the salesman here. But the store faces a lot of customers coming, buying that product. And when they're in the store, they buy a couple of other products. The storekeeper is happy. This salesman, when he's promoted to sales manager, he says, make sure you have maximum shelf space given to your product. It has become like a mantra to him, which he thinks if he keep on invoking, lot of sales success will follow. What this man is not saying or seeing is the power of merchandising. If need be, he should provide own merchandiser in each of the store where he gets shelf space. So in business, it is a rule. Not one thing gets these sales. At least two complementary things are needed. Many times it is a large number, 20, 200 elements must fit together. So this is the reason why the entrepreneurs take growth for granted, because they share the blind spots which the sales manager in my example has about merchandising and its contribution. By fluke, they get this. Now they are spoiled. They make it a mantra and make everybody's life miserable. So what happens is such founders, such senior executives of new ventures which are growth oriented are very hard of hearing, Mr. Whether you are an expert, whether you are a colleague, whether you are subordinate, it's very difficult to make them listen. And that is a tragedy, a avoidable tragedy. I don't know what other than manage will cure it.
Thank you, Professor Saran. Now, my next question to you is, quality of founding team shines through competent, rapid growth strategy execution. What's your view?
100%. And today, two compatible people coming together is a blessing. The primary founder should be an individual who has a very high level competence, 30 minutes, 1 hour, and you become as energized about the business idea as he himself is. This is called charisma, Mr. Goel. So this is the first thing which the founding team core member should have. Then the other members who have been found, this is called team building, founding team building. In this, what happens is, see, I may hate some things very much. I may love some things very much. If it is deep conviction of mine, I don't want to change it. I am a human being first and foremost. You can only persuade me to change if I am somebody of substance. You cannot force me, pressurize me. If you do that, then what happens? I go into negative stress and my creative faculties vanish, burn. So burnout happens. So you see, this is the reason why competent founding teams are like a factory in which every member is managed like a proper human being. And most importantly, the founding teams shine because of one quality, Mr. Goel. They are generous to the extreme. They are generous to the extreme. To give you an example, see the first example of the three companies from which I said we can draw lessons. The Ewing, Marion, Kaufman example. See the 3 points which are there. This is the signature of all the competent founding teams. Number one, treat everyone as you will want to be treated. we have heard it all our life, but we fail to practice it in letter and spirit. If the founding team does it, all the employees will give their heart out to the business success. Second, share the wealth with those who have created it. It was said in 1776 by Adam Smith when he was discussing value and sharing value with his stakeholders. 1776. It was restated by Fred F.W. Taylor in late 19th century, early 20th century. He is called founding father of management. He said something of this effect, but today we not only have forgotten, there are bad teachers. I'll call them bad teachers. Excuse me. At my age, I'm entitled to call something a spade as a spade. They want to misrepresent the actual statement of Fayol in order to propagate bad theories. The third one is pursue highest standards of performance and ethics. Highest standard of ethics. I don't take a rupee of yours, which is not mine. I don't give you a rupee, which is mine. Both sides is ethics. No sacrifice taken from you, no sacrifice given to you. That is the highest ethics. Ayn Rand wrote a book on this one. It is called The Virtue of Selfishness. That is the highest standard of ethics. For those who want to know the detail, here is the reference. Highest standards of performance, Mr. Goel. If you are able to drive without a single accident, 1,000 kilometers or Indian roads every day, but if you drive only 300 kilometers or 600 kilometers, then you are not sticking to highest performance. 1,000 to karenge hi, maybe 10 kilometers more every day. That is highest standards of performance. Pushing yourself to excel. And that comes only for internal self-motivation first, and it is sustained by the Ralph Steer kind of organization, the Ewing Kaufman kind of organization, Mr. Goel. The two are complementary. The organization culture, compensation plan is part of it. So these 3 points are the answer to the question. That's why they shine. That's why they excel.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Saran. Next question to you is, if rapid growth strategy is so important, don't you think the incubators have a special model to teach it to ambitious founders? Because what you are saying and what is practicalities which is coming out is that the rapid growth is very, very important. Now, when rapid growth strategies are very important, why the incubators are not teaching them or telling them in to the ambition, or the founders who want to do the business or who want to start the startup?
I think the answer is yes. Every incubator should have a module on this one. But as is true to our thought leadership interactions, we are bringing on cutting edge knowledge to the general viewers. Tomorrow it may become the norm, but today it is exception. And we have a big role to play at Media Conference Lal Goel and at Dr. Sharan Consulting California to make it our mission to go to incubators and tell them the power of rapid growth strategy. Not leave it to chance, but put it in the hands of a competent founding team. This has not been one of the conscious objectives. This has been included in the term sheets that you will do this, you will do that, ensure rapid growth. Those parts are there. But you know what? There is a model which says, if you take 10 things which are very large, say a number which is 10 crore, take a number which is 1 crore, last number is 5 lakh, multiply them. The result will be mind-boggling number. But God forbid, if your growth strategy had all those 10 elements and the 11th element was multiplication, not by 1, but by 0, you know what will happen? If it was multiplied with a 0, whole thing will crash. Incubators need to change their curriculum. They need to change their pedagogy. And they have to change their value orientation to those who agree to incubate. With these 3 changes, Mr. Goel, which let us agree today to push at ambition at your level, at my level, we will go to incubators and tell them, time has come to do this. Because you cannot pat your back with 10 laurels. We have this huge success, this is huge success. You will become a story like Steve Jobs in 1984-85. Steve Jobs was growing his Apple computers quite nicely. Then he decided to bring in a more competent person to run the show for him. He brought in the man from a very famous multinational FMCG company. That man came and joined. In 1 year's time, Steve Jobs was disillusioned because the kind of thing we said. He was like the sales manager who went to ask for the shelf store, but was blind to the role of merchandising. But he has an ego. He ran a established company. When Ralph Astaire in Johnsonville sausage company took over from his father, it was running company. $5 million in those days was not a small sum of money. It was a successful business. So Steve Jobs made a slip, being what he was. At age of 30, he was kicked out of his own company. What a tragedy. It is just saving grace for us in the world that the man managed a strategy, and his videos show that he was heavily influenced by Ayn Rand, Mr. Goel. For 3 months, he writes, I did not know what to do with my life. He read Ayn Rand, and the evidence to this one is a video in which he is shown harvesting carrots in a patch in jean and shirt. That is a scene described in a novel written by Ayn Rand called Atlas Shrugged in Utah University context. That's a longer story. To cut it short, so Ayn Rand saved him, and we have to tell the incubators, time has come to teach objective, rapid growth strategy, because without them, we are making 3 blunders. First, we are destroying capital which could have been conserved. Capital once spent is spent, whether it brings revenue or not. Second, people who join us, many people sacrifice a cushy life to join a startups, go through lots of sacrifices and hard work. And if the potential is not realized, dreams are smashed. That is second loss. And that is a very unforgivable kind of a loss. The third one is, if we are not successful, we have not created wealth. If we have not created wealth, how will the people who are successors of ours will be funded and encouraged? So all these three things can be avoided if what you mentioned is these are important and this needs to be done. Time has come once we take it as a mission and do it.
Okay, sure, we will do that. Now, my next question to you is, many times we have seen the startups starts with an ambitious project, with a vision, but then the resources crunch comes. Now, how one can evaluate the specific startup is having resources for successful rapid growth strategy formulation and implementation? Professor Saran.
There will be as many answers as unique promoters will be there, founders will be there. And the first thing that I will mention here is treat your business as a living baby. It was in the womb for 9 months. Equivalent to that one is the first 3 years, which are called R&D phase of a business, of a startup, of a new venture. Please make sure in the R&D phase, you are doing all the right experiments to understand where is the dissatisfaction among the people, potential buyers. What is the competition doing to address it? And where do my creative thinking, my unique expertise come in play to create a better solution? Be objective. Don't let your personal prejudices color and taint it. Most important. It will be very easy for me to say, but very difficult for you to practice, because a startup people are people of conviction and confidence. So they find it difficult. In that sense, you find a personal friend, philosopher, guide, mentor to tell you what is actually questionable. Point number one. Once that is done, remember that we take particular care about feeding and resting the expecting mother. She is not one individual anymore. She is two individuals. So if proper nutrition to the fetus is to be provided, it has to be through the mother. All the wisdom is there, rural wisdom, urban wisdom is there. So equivalent of that has to be provided, Mr. Goel, to those people. Then comes the very first phase, wonder phase. And here I say is, don't take credit for all the success to yourself. Give credit also to other factors, internal and external. Practice giving credit and practice giving recognition in the next 3 years of the phase. Only then you will develop the competency to be charismatic. Such people who are generous, who follow the Kaufman principles, 3 principles of Kaufman, that is the next 3 years. 6 years have gone. Now the rapid growth will be visible because the strategy will be there and product market fit will be happening at increasing rate. I am using an economic word, increase at increasing rate. That is what happens. And today economic knowledge is there. Inflection point will come. The moment inflection point will come, be careful, because rapid growth strategy will start giving less and less result, and you may want to flog the organization and members, key players, marketing manager, finance manager, HR manager, to extract more performance from them. Please don't do it. Change the systems, not the people. I have a quotation here which is relevant. It says, when a flower does not blossom, change the environment in which it grows, not the flower. Here, I will also remind what Sloan said, take away all my assets, but leave me my organization, and I'll get everything back in 5 years. Take all my assets, leave me my organization 5 years. So in the next 3 years, have the mindset, have the philosophy, have the attitude to map and reflect what Kaufman is saying here, and have the courage what Ralph Steyer here says, change the traditional lock, stock, and barrel, not piece by piece, not in retail, wholesale. And you have done your job as the best of the best founders are expected to do with respect to excuse me, rapid growth strategy formulation and implementation.
Thank you very much, Professor Saran. Although I have some more questions, but the clock is saying something else. So, viewers, you have seen today how the rapid growth strategy for startups are important, very, very important. And Professor Saran has given the straight answers to my straight questions and given all the details how the rapid growth strategy for startup is important. He has even said about that the incubators must teach the founders about this rapid growth strategies, because without rapid growth strategy, the valuation of the startup will not grow. And that is very, very important in the present scenario. So according to Professor Saran, which he has given explanation in during our this complete almost 1.5 hours session, he has clarified all the doubts, all the questions. And viewers, I would like to request you, in case if you have any questions in our such type of programs of thought leadership series, you can send your programs once you receive the flyer or once you see it on the Facebook or the YouTube, or to the channels, those who are telecasting this show, so that we can also put these questions to the thought leader and let the thought leader